Well, and this will also be to you, Dr. Hartke, and well, pretty much anybody here on the panel. You know, we have had good discussion today and highlighting the reduction in energy costs to families as a result of gains that we're making in efficiencies. When we think about those who are most impacted by the higher cost of energy, it really is the most vulnerable in our society, whether it's elders or the poor. And when we've got some important federal programs. The weatherization program has been mentioned. We see great benefit of that in Alaska. We've got state energy programs. Those programs that can help maximize efficiency standards. But if you had your magic wand here in terms of the area that you could make the biggest impact on effectiveness from the federal government's perspective in helping low-income households reduce energy costs, where is it? You know, in a cold place like Alaska, it seems to me the easy place is the weatherization and the insulation, so that you don't have to spend much more, so much more. Maybe in the South, it's you don't. Again, these efficiencies allow you to live more comfortably, not die of heat stroke in hot places. Where is the most exciting potential that you think we have a role to play from the federal government's perspective that can make a difference for those that are more energy vulnerable? Bruno, want to start?
I'm happy to go first. That's a great question. I really appreciate that. You mentioned the weatherization program is absolutely a great example of what does work. It hits the low-income bracket because I think the average income for that program is like $28,000 a year. So that really does work out well. There's a gap of folks who kind of need the help, who can't afford, say, that home energy rebate program we've got.
Right.
You know, there are folks who can afford that. There's some who go into that program and they can't afford the whole retrofit process. And so those are people that we kind of need to help sort of support. I want to just build on the backs of some of the programs that EERE has put out and Office of Indian Energy have put out that's actually helping rural Alaska build capacity in a lot of our rural communities there. So what I mean by that is, in fact, there are people in town right now this week presenting on the outcomes of some of these projects where we go into the villages and we do energy audits for tribal buildings, and then that gives them an energy plan to help move forward. I think that's a big step forward. You know, it's kind of like you know, in your own home, you know a couple things you could do to make your house more efficient, but really you need pros to come out there, and so that's where I think that's a magic wand thing I would like to say is support continued programs that help that that endeavor. I'd also say just education of the not just homeowners but home builders. If we can get some of these technologies, and I'm talking just basic building methods that are energy efficient into the hands of our builders, and maybe through codes. I mean, that's a great one because of course Alaska doesn't have statewide code.
Let me ask about that one, and again, I'll open this up to everybody because I think it was you, Dr. Hartke, that said we don't always see the benefits of efficiency. But it's clear that the opportunity is there. I thought that was well put. It goes back to education. And so much of this is people just don't know how they can make a difference. Or they say, me changing out my light bulbs to LED, that's not gonna make a difference. I'm not gonna be able to change the world or save the world today. So in addition to the magic wand, because I agree, education has got to be a significant component of this. The Alliance to Save Energy, I mean, that's kind of what you do, but we're not doing it enough if we're still seeing 40% of the power generation that is going towards our buildings? What do we need more there?
I'll just chime in quickly. A couple points. One, and this speaks in part to your question, which is a big question. Since the end of 2017, we have not had incentives for energy efficiency. They expired at the end, now almost a year and a half ago. And making sure that we are continuing to drive behavior towards, high performance products and homes makes a difference. I think it's a market signal that that reaches everybody. On the flip side, how do you have a policy of a federal government role that does reach everybody? And I don't think there's any better example than standards. Standards has been an engine for innovation and a program. I mean, one of the greatest energy efficiency policies ever completed. It's now saving us over $2 trillion, and that reaches everybody. Because the problem, I think, with your question is, how do you construct a policy that does get to the folks who would benefit most from those energy savings? And that's tough to do, in part because there are a variety of structural barriers, and there's split incentive barriers. So it's hard if you're a tenant or you're a renter. You might want to have more energy efficiency and benefit from those energy savings, but they would actually go to the landlord. So how do you overcome those barriers is a big deal. And then last, I would just underscore the role of education. It's huge. I just saw this full spread piece in the Washington Post that was talking about all these home retrofits that you could do. You could do your bathroom, your kitchen, all these other things. Look, for a $300 blower door test, you could map out a whole slew of energy efficiency improvements that would save you money. So education still is a big hurdle. And then last but not least, the weatherization program. It's a hugely successful government program. It reaches the most vulnerable. It saves almost, on average, $300 to those families a year. Those savings are cumulative. So if there's ways to either amplify that program and also ways to modernize that program so it could go deeper in terms of those energy savings, I think that would be tremendous as well.
I'm well over my time, but I see Mr. Conant is just itching to jump in here, so if I may.
Thank you. From the solar side, one of the biggest challenges we run up against in our work with low-income West Virginians is that the biggest solar incentive in the country is the investment tax credit. Unfortunately, that is based on someone's income.
Right.
So actually, for the average, for anyone that is at the average West Virginian family income or below, they're not able to take that tax credit in 1 year.
Yeah.
It would take multiple years of dragging it out. And so particularly when we get calls from retirees or it's every other day we're getting a call from someone who lives in manufactured housing and has a $600 monthly electric bill, and we start talking with them, we just can't help them because this tax incentive does absolutely no good for them. Same thing on the nonprofit side. So if I had my magic wand, I'd really focus in on how do we expand the eligibility of that tax credit, whether it's through making it refundable or some other mechanism to make sure that we're not only sending our incentive dollars towards higher income folks.